tight ends. There's probably the top 5 are the targets. So you got Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, Kyle Pitts, George Kittle, and Darren Waller fitting in that top 5. Mark Andrews I've got is probably my one, but Kels will has the higher average draft position. My concerns with Kels at 33 years old, can he keep doing this? He's going to be asked to do a lot this year. Maybe does he get overworked? But at 13, that's second round pick kind of range, potentially sneaking into the end of your first. I just think that's a lot for a tight end, though with Kelce you can expect him to play the entire season and get over 100 receptions.
As long as, knock on wood, as long as he doesn't get injured, he's going to get bulk production. In that team there. So
definitely. So that's kind of what you alluded to. But also, it's like, will they manage him a little bit more as he's now getting older? We'll have to see. I'm just not a huge fan of his average draft position because it is very high. Andrews is going in the 20 range, Raffler around 22. Pitts is at 32. Kittle's at 38-ish, going in those 30 ranges. And Waller then slides into, say, a 4th, 5th round as a 44-ish there. So for Kittle... Actually, no, I'll skip that. We'll go Pitts next. Pitts has usually gone about third off the board. He should get all the targets he had last year. His biggest issue was no touchdowns. So he had the one last year. I think his quarterback position's worse, but he has more talent around him, which may help. Hard to say. That Falcons team's big question mark. He got a good long reception in the preseason game yesterday. So... Yeah. He's definitely talented and is, should be up here in this list. Again, do you worry about how high he's going? Maybe. But there is a significant... I think there's been more in the tight ends for this year, but there's also still a significant drop-off here. You want to target... I guess the strategy is you want to target one of these 5, and if you can get them closer to the 5th round, that's where I aim to get a tight end.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's not like... last couple of years have been pretty unique in terms of that. You would want Kelce or Kittle in the first round. Like, you did have people sort of picking them randomly in the first round. There seems to be a bit of a shift away from that this year. More so just in terms of team movements than anything else. Yeah.
So speaking of Kittle, has played a fair bit in the preseason, which is good. My big risks with him, of course, is the quarterback situation with Lance, and maybe his playing style is very physical, and he does miss a fair amount of games because of that. Had interrupted seasons through injury the last couple of years. Going at 38, I just have too much risk with him. And of the 5, I'd prefer to target the other 4 first before I looked at Kittle. Darren Waller then rounds out that 5 there, as I said, going at 44. Coming off a few injuries, has been a bit banged up. Didn't play at all, I don't think, in the preseason with a hamstring-related injury. The question for him is volume. Does he steal some of Hunter's volume back? Then with Adams added into there, where's that fit? It kind of makes it hard. So of the 5, I'd target Andrews and Kelce if you can in that, say, 3rd round. Probably both will be gone by then. Then maybe have a look at Pitts towards the end of that 3rd. If you can wait and try and get one of these guys in the 4th or 5th, then that's probably a better position, so you can load up and running back and wide receiver talent. So one, I've got number 6 there, TJ Hawkinson, coming off an injury. He missed the last 5 games, had been playing well up to that point. I think he's potentially probably the good value of this whole list, going at 65, so 6th or 7th round. He would have been top 5 if he hadn't got injured. But I think if you miss out on these guys, you can probably wait a round or 2 and then add TJ. He's, besides St. Brown at the Lions team, they've got nothing really there. Williams is on PUP, so he'll miss the first 8 weeks. So I'd say healthy TJ is going to get a lot of the ball there from Goff. So I do like TJ as a sneaky good value at this point.
As points per game in a PPR league, before it's per game. He was 6th overall last year, so obviously the injury sort of restricted his numbers there.
Missed the last 5.
TJ Hawkinson, yeah.
So then Zach Ertz is in the next. Well, actually, he comes down a little bit further, but depending on ranking, he bumps up and around. But average draft position at the moment is 96. Has, I guess, won that role in tight end space there. There is questions about receivers at Arizona. There is questions overall about the offense. Is probably what gives me the most risk with Ertz, and then kind of the return you get from Ertz in previous years. He's just a player I generally try to avoid. And I think there's options elsewhere. Dante Schultz is probably one of those things that I...
Dalton,
sorry. What did I say, Dante? It's not even
Just
close to
adding a little bit of twang or something to it.
Yeah.
he changed race.
Schultz, anyway, for Dallas, going in the, say, 60s range. When healthy, top-tier tight end. Played all of last year after missing the previous year, a lot of it. So... he will get a lot of value.
Yeah, I like him.
A lot of volume in this offense now with, no Cooper there. It's got to be shared around. So that's kind of why I think he's been bumped up a little bit here into that 60s range for his average draft position. And on a big Cowboys offense, I think that's pretty good value. Again, if you miss out on the top 5, him and Hawkinson are probably guys to target next in that round 6 or 7.
In PPR leagues last year, he was 3rd overall and 5th per game. I think there's a bit of value there in taking Dalton Schultz.
I'm just going to make the comment the last couple of weeks when we're talking about running backs and quarterbacks, we sort of said don't touch the Cowboys or leave them probably till a little bit later if you can get them.
Outside of CD Lamb, the big question marks across there and the competition at running back. The offensive line we just talked about with the injuries.
So you think Schultz is a safer bet than some of the other starters? Obviously with CD Lamb being the
as a tight end, because he's potentially going to get volume, get 100 targets this year. So that's what you'd look for. And, they have to throw the ball to someone and a safe outlet tight end like Schultz is a good option there for Dak. Next Dallas Goddard is the next up on that list. His average draft position at 71, so just going behind these guys. Had a bit of a breakout year finally after Zach Ertz got traded away. Coming into that offense, I think he finished up with about 50-ish receptions, but then starting as a 1 essentially. The big question mark for him is probably AJ Brown because they didn't have as many options in that offense, and if anyone's going to lose some volume in that Eagles offense, it's probably Dallas Goedert to AJ Brown, with Smith as being their 1-2 and the wide receiver position. So, and a team that has a quarterback that has a preference to running. I think Dallas might actually regress a little bit.
Yeah. I don't think that's.
I think when I say regress, he's probably going to have the similar numbers as he did this year. Last season.
Which didn't break the house down.
Yeah, which was solid, but it wasn't. He's not in the top 5 as we mentioned before. So good return, solid return, but maybe not the potential volume that the others in front of him are getting.
Pat Frymouth had probably over his season last year. Do you think he can reproduce that, or are you concerned about the quarterback situation there?
Quarterback situation. It looks like Pickett's probably going to win that job. He's been very good in preseason. That's the whole story there. Average draft position over the hundreds, 110. So he's going in round 11. So you can get some value there late. But I think the reason also is quarterback situation plus mouths. They got Johnson, they got Claypool, potentially now Pickens as well as the third. They've got plenty of options they can throw around to. That probably drops overall what he can do. And I think for him, it's probably a regression instead of taking another step in that offense currently. It might be wait on him this year, come back the following year once they've maybe Pickett's established himself a little bit as a quarterback. And that's where we'll see what the offense is like overall. And what the overall weapons are with the wide receivers and how they fit in there. And then the last one, Dallas Knox.
Dawson.
Sorry, what did I say? Dallas.
Got it. You might have been looking at.
Yeah. Need to put my glasses on. So Knox for the Bills.
Good excuse.
I think you had to do that 94 episode.
So Knox for the Bills. They're going at 96 as an average. His biggest concern is, same for a lot of these, volume. OJ Howard's there. If he doesn't make the team, I'd consider drafting Knox at that kind of 9th, 10th round. If the OJ's on the team, then I'd probably avoid Knox completely because he'll share some of those big passing situations with the big boy and OJ. Because the benefit for him, passing offense, lots of volume. They're going to throw the ball around all over the place. But there, again, lots of mouths to feed there. Lots of competition. So I think he's kind of fair for his draft position, and I would make a decision on whether OJ Howard is on that team come next week.
Gronk did fine, just quietly coming back, but was playing with Brady
But he came in as the one though, so and really made OJ Howard and Bright the second fiddle to the reason why they let him go. They didn't resign him. So,
do you think you'd have to go after one of these top 4 or 5 guys? Because then the talent really drops off so quickly?
I think if you want to see if you can get one of the 5, if you can't get one of them by round 4 or 5, then look at Schultz and Hockenson in year 6 or 7.
Yep.
And that should be a game plan. Outside of that, probably avoid a lot of them.
Quickly run through the other possibilities.
Yeah, the other possibilities. So there's probably 3 late that for whatever reason are very late and you could potentially do really well, and the other ones are avoid. So Cole Kemp there is average draft position of 123. Does have Fielder, the quarterback. He's probably the number 2 wide receiver on that team. His biggest issue was touchdowns. Mm-hmm. He'd probably get high volume. I don't think he scored any touchdowns last year. So
correct. Yeah,
that's the big difference. If he can get some tutters, he will then bump himself up into that top 10, or deep into that top 10 conversation. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the Bills is the question. Not Bears. The Bears is the question for that his overall outlook. But late, if you missed out on all those other guys we mentioned, then he's potential sleeper, as you will, there. Next one, Big O. I'd just say coming off the AC and what I've seen from the preseason, avoid completely.
Is that Denver, and you've watched pretty much every snap of Denver's preseason?
Yeah, the tight end role I think is very much a shared one, and Greg Dorsey, who's their 2nd round pick, hasn't played at all in the preseason due to hamstring injury, but potentially I think might end up just walking in and having the job as a starter. I wouldn't draft him. I think it's more like he's like a solid pickup, come week 4 when maybe he steals that as a good receiving option there in Denver. So overall, avoid Denver's tight ends. Do you
think Dulcich might be the starter?
I think he will take a lot of the passing down role.
They draft him 2nd round?
2nd round?
Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry, Nick Medina, 2nd round, he'd be 3rd.
3rd round.
Sorry, yeah, I forgot they didn't pick first because Russell Wilson, let's ride. So, interesting ones. The next 3, Darrell Everett comes across from...
Rams?
Was he Rams last year?
He wasn't.
No.
He wasn't the Rams for a while.
Seahawks. Rams, Seahawks.
Yep.
Now at Chargers. Takes over the Cook role there. Cook is tired, I believe, which is interesting because he's going, essentially not getting drafted at the moment, but he looks like to be a starting tight end in that team. There's no other really tight ends of name, and he's in a big offense. Yep. So probably sleeping on him a little bit there. Robert Tonyan coming off the ACL again.
As a Packers fan that drafted him after his stellar 2020 career season last year, pretty ordinary.
Well, AC during the middle of the year means that's why he didn't have the turn. But then also,
but even in the lead up before he had the injury, it just wasn't the same.
The Packers started the season slow as well. So
there's
a bit of overlap there.
I'd be hesitant, and I'd wonder what kind of league you're in if Robert Tonyan's getting drafted.
Yeah, I'm saying that this is last round kind of Hail Mary kind of situation potentially.
Sure.
But you look at there's no guaranteed wide receiving options over Green Bay.
Yeah.
He's a veteran there, young talent. See what he looks like coming off the ACL and see how he fits in there.
He just hurt me last year,
Yeah. Irv Smith Jr. is another really.
This is a good sleeper. I think this is a good sleeper.
And average draft position last round could have a big role. He kind of fits that role that the Rams tight ends, because that's the offense they're running over there at Vikings. Hasn't played at all in the preseason. Has a bit of a thumb issue currently, but should be good for week 1. But it's probably their third, best receiving option in that team behind Thielen and Jefferson. So could be in for a big role and big volume. His previous year before the injury, I think he scored like 5 touchdowns or something. Didn't have the receivings, but he was a red zone option, and could fit into that core very well. So I do like him here.
Beauty. Last few?
Yeah, Jordan from Houston has been a bit of a sleeper during the preseason. His biggest issue is on the Texans. So maybe avoid. I think overall avoid the Tampa Bay Buccaneers tight ends. They did add Kyle Rudolph there. He hasn't played a lot in preseason, but I think it's everything I've seen. It's a shared kind of role they're going there. There won't be a true number one, and they've kind of shared that role in the past. With Gronk as well. So
probably watch it as the season goes on and see who
exactly. Yeah, that's a potential target to see if Kyle Rudolph plays a lot in that. But again, another high-powered offense, a lot of mouths to feed. Have to see what his volume is. Another very interesting one, probably the darling from preseason, is Isaiah Likely playing over in the Ravens team. Got average draft positions 200 plus, but. You think of the way the Ravens play, they love playing 2 tight end sets. He's likely to be tight end number 2. They don't really have much options at wide receiver outside of Bateman. So he potentially could be the third receiving option on the Ravens team. So he could very quickly find his way into the conversation for, big volume, big catches. I think he had a game last week with 100-plus yards and 7-ish catches. Like, he's definitely a receiving option. That's kind of what his draft had. Mark Andrews has been talking him up, says he's got a bit of me in him, etc. So,
is he kind of like a handcuffed tight end? Would you
potentially
like that?
Well, also tight end number 2, the way the Ravens play, they're going to run the ball a lot and be in tight end 2 sets. He's going to play a lot of snaps. Okay. So, though he's tight end number 2, he's probably wide receiver 3.
Sure.
And we'll have to see what Lamar looks like coming in the season. But, Lamar's been an MVP, can throw bombs, got wheels. I think Likely might be able to sneak in as a I like him as the one if, kind of that half cuff kind of situation. If you pick a top 5 guy, and if you need another tight end on your roster to sit on your bench, Likely's a good one to have there for the potential of what he can be coming into the season.
Beauty. Monks, do you have any questions around Hunter Henry?
Yeah, just wondering. I know he probably doesn't get the yardage, but he's definitely like that red zone target.
Is he on the Pats still?
Yeah, he's on the Pats.
Avoid.
He was tight end 10 last year. He caught 9 touchdowns.
Was banged up a bit, and then he's sharing with Smith still as well. So
still avoid.
anything receiving related for Patriots at the moment is a solid avoid.
Yeah, not fair.
Let's shoot through the defenses and the kickers.
Yeah, definitely. So defenses, the top 10, you got Buffalo Bills at 1, followed by Tampa Bay, 49ers, Colts, Rams, Saints, Denver, Patriots, Chargers, and Cowboys. For me, I think Bills probably slightly overrated, as in they're probably going too early. And, they've got a bit of a tough schedule to start off. I think the others probably fair where they are. Colts at 4, maybe regress a little bit after last season. They are a very good defensive team, but they were very, very good last year. Sticking to that standard might be hard.
Did they lose to Forrest Buckner? He went to Miami, did he not?
Potentially.
Yes. I'll chase that up. I'm pretty sure they lost their all-pro defensive tackle.
Rams were there at 5. Saints, I do like Rams haven't changed. Saints have a bit of concern with. I'm not a huge fan of their defense overall, but they're a good defense.
Disregard DeForest Buckner at the Colts.
Yeah, at the Colts. Thing in Saints' favour, they're going to play the Falcons and Panthers twice this year. So 4 games overall.
I like that.
Yeah, so
good matchup.
That's good matchups there. So going at 6. My favourite overall of this list is Denver.
Shock me.
Of course.
They do start off, I believe, playing, Seahawks first, then Houston. So they got a good start to the season. Biggest concern was same with them and the Chargers is they do play in the West, in the very loaded West.
Few shootouts.
Yeah, six games of the season, which will be shootouts. But potentially, a lot of intercepts, sacks could come from that. So this could be scoring. But I do like Denver where they're going with they've got a really good schedule to start with, one of the easier schedules, but they have a very tough run late. The last 4 games, I believe, Kansas twice, Chargers, and Rams. So maybe use them to start the season and then fuck give them a flick for the last month of football. Yeah.
Do the Chargers kind of come into a similar consideration? Yeah. That they're in the West, pretty solid defense.
Exact same, yeah. Solid defense, but in the West is a concern. These two probably great kind of streaming options to go back and forth depending on who they're playing week to week. And the Pats, everyone kind of sleeps on the Pats. They've been top 10 defense since 2018. So I'd say that probably continues for them.
Consistent.
They're very consistent, and that's kind of their style of football they play, very grindy game of football. So we'll have to see what that looks like. And then Dallas sneaks in at 10, but that's due to their most turnovers. I think they had 27 last year. So
pretty much off the back of Diggs.
Yeah. So the question for them is, can they repeat that? I'd say probably not. It's hard to get to that level again. So maybe a regression for them. Other teams to consider, Packers, Dolphins and Ravens. Dolphins probably criminally underrated for their defense. They're very good defensively. The Ravens have been banged up. Again, could push into top 10, top 5 kind of defense. That's very Ravens of them to do that. That's the kind of team they play as. And then surprisingly, the Steelers have fallen off. They were defense 1-2 years ago, and now they're not even in the top 15. I think they're going like 18 at the moment.
What's the thinking there? Their offense is going to be so poop that they're going to have to play so much. They're going to get tired.
Yeah,
is that the thinking?
I think overall situations, probably having to chase in games, and they weren't as good last year as well, but they also were banged up a bit. But they've
got the best edge rusher in the league in TJ Watt. Yep. Might be underrated. Maybe a Smokey.
Maybe a Smokey. Good one if you don't pick him up as well to target for streaming options too. And then to finish off kickers.
I can't believe we're talking about this.
You've interrupted me, so it took longer than it needed to.
I'll shut up for 30 seconds.
Yeah. So you get Tucker, McPherson, Gabe, Buckner. I don't know how to say the Colts' name.
Blankenship,
Bass, Suckup, and McManus. They're the ones I like. They're potentially all the top offenses in the league, so focus on them, ignore everything else.
That's pretty good.
I'm done.
That's pretty good.
And that's fantasy for this year. Good luck. Season starts in 2 weeks.
Yeah, so a lot of fantasy.
Thursday night. 2 weeks.
Yeah. We're 10 days away, 11 days away. A lot of fantasy drafts will happen next week. So good luck to anyone that is playing fantasy football this year. And thank you, Sean, for your insights over the last month. Yep. And please, if you do want to see our thoughts on quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, and rookies, check out the last few videos. And that was tight ends, defenses, and kickers are people too. you know a thing or two about drafting kickers early.
Yeah.
In the second round.
Always go second round.